Alberta Primetime with Michael Higgins.
Welcome to Alberta Primetime. Ahead tonight, our politics panel on the Alberta Next panel stop in Medicine Hat. But first, the next chapter.
What I would like for the school boards to say is, we agree. Children shouldn't see pornographic images. We'll work with you on that. And that's what I hope the new spirit going forward will be.
The government is now pausing and rewriting its ministerial order that directed school divisions to remove books from library shelves containing sexually explicit and pornographic content. To comply with the initial order, Edmonton's Public Board drafted a list of more than 200 books, including a number of notable works that sparked widespread controversy. The Premier says changes to the directive will ensure classic literature stays on bookshelves. Joining us now to discuss the latest developments, Laura Winton, Vice Chair of the Canadian Federation of Library Associations and past President of the Library Association of Alberta. Laura, welcome to Alberta Primetime.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so what does the government pausing implementation represent to you? Why do you think we're at this point?
Well, I think the government put together, a censorship order for schools. It was, vague and not particularly clear. The school boards did their very best to implement that without a lot of time and a lot of resources. And not surprisingly, as many people, warned the government, it has led to the removal of, and will continue to lead to the removal of large amounts of really classic literature. I'm pleased to see that they're pausing it, but what we really want to see here is a full repeal of that ministerial order. Our position has always been that decisions about what is age appropriate and developmentally appropriate and should be in school libraries should rest with trained, educated librarians and educators, not with the government. And in fact, the government's own survey showed that Albertans absolutely agree with that.
Is there, though, some kind of misunderstanding about the intent of the government's initial directives? Something school boards may have lost in translation.
I think that's what Danielle Smith is certainly putting forward. I think the tricky part about any sort of censorship guidelines or orders like this is that they are subjective. And people think they're a great idea until the material they like gets removed. But that's the tricky part about censorship and banning of materials is, it's not actually easy without providing a very specific list of books to get the message across, because we all look at things differently.
You mentioned the word censorship a moment ago. Is that what you see that initial directive boiling down to?
Yeah, absolutely. Censorship is by definition when the state puts limits on what information is available to its citizens. And so that's what we saw in this order, a limit on what could be available in school libraries to our children in Alberta.
At any point, were the organizations you represent consulted or given an opportunity to address development of the government's book removal policy?
We weren't consulted before the announcement was made. We did reach out to the minister and request a meeting, which he granted with us. But we were not involved in any of the processes around developing the order itself. And as far as I know, neither were the school boards.
What did you take away from that meeting with the minister?
What I took away was that they weren't particularly interested in having assistance from educators and librarians, that they were planning to proceed with this and probably no matter what we said. We did warn them that that orders like this, that legislation like this would likely lead to large amounts of material being removed from collections, and we were told that wasn't a concern and it wouldn't happen. Here we are.
You mentioned a moment ago about the need for repeal here, but if asked, how would you advise the government on revising this policy? Is there room to fulfill the original intent of removing explicit sexual content without this being censorship?
Well, I would say no, it's not the government's place to be in this conversation and to be putting forward guidelines on what Alberta citizens, and that includes children, can and cannot have access to in their libraries. What I would also say is, Danielle Smith is saying, well, we're going to reword it so that it doesn't allow pornography in school libraries. You're not going to find pornography in school libraries. The 4 titles that she is defining as pornography are award-winning graphic novels. They are taught in high schools and university classrooms. They are not pornography.
You work in a world of library professionals. How do you see this Alberta dialogue being perceived outside of our borders? What kind of message do you feel it's sending here?
Well, I mean, what we know is true is with this, we are the first province in Canada to introduce explicit censorship into our libraries. That's I mean, as a librarian, it's disheartening and it's a bit embarrassing. I also have real concerns about the narrative that I see some groups pushing as well, that this is a matter of librarians and educators against parents. I don't think that is true either. Librarians and educators absolutely welcome, the input and understand the importance of parents' input in the reading of their children. There are processes in schools to allow that to happen. And librarians and educators are not two distinct groups. I'm the mother of an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old with a 3rd on the way. And I, as a parent, also have huge concerns about censorship policies in our schools.
Depending on what this revised directive ends up looking like, how much workload do you expect still awaits teachers, school divisions?
Well, I think a huge amount of work still awaits school divisions, regardless of what the content of the censorship and the sort of breadth of that censorship is and what's being removed. All schools are being asked to catalog all material in all classrooms, not just school libraries, but also classroom collections that teachers keep for their own classrooms, often purchased with their own money. That's a lot of work, I can tell you, as a librarian, cataloging appropriately all of that information and making it available in a system that is accessible to parents. Depending on the size of the school board, that's going to cost a lot of money and be a lot of work.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw one more quick one at you. Beyond the impact to schools, to what degree is there concern such policy could find its way into public libraries in Alberta generally?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know that groups like Action for Canada, who are behind the push with the Minister of Education to bring in this order, have been targeting public libraries throughout Alberta, sending notices of liability and telling us we'll be sued if we don't remove materials from shelves. So knowing that groups like that have the ear of the government is very concerning. So I think we'd be naive to think that there isn't a possibility that this could spread beyond school libraries.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for time, Laura. Appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thanks so much.